All right, so I'm going to share this quite interesting quote that I found. It's from Adorno's Aesthetic Theory, which is a book that I've read on this channel, but I found just a short excerpt in this collection of lectures that Adorno give in preparation for actually writing that work. So the quote, the topic of the quote is kind of like formal analysis, which is something that I've spoken about before on this channel when I did my review of Wolfland's book, Principles of Art History, and I'm going to try to relate it to an overall political analysis and something that I've spoken about before on this channel again, which is anarchism and liberalism as well. So the quote goes like this: "The monadological constitution of artworks in themselves points beyond itself. If it is made absolute, immanent analysis falls prey to ideology, against which it struggled when it wanted to devote itself to the artworks internally rather than deducing their worldviews. Today it is already evident that immanent analysis, which was once a weapon of experience against Philistinism, is being misused as a slogan to hold social reflection at a distance from absolutized art." So basically Adorno here, he's responding to a tendency that was present, perhaps dominant at his time, in the early first half of the 20th century, of doing these kinds of formal analyses of artworks. These kind of people who are doing this were very wary of being Philistines, which is to say somebody who cannot really appreciate a work of art in its own terms, who is incapable of doing like a real concrete formal analysis of an artwork. That is what Philistinism is, like seeing some kind of artwork and then importing a lot of irrelevant things to it, it's something that amateur art critics do a lot, which is import a lot of theoretical and philosophical concerns and kind of contexts that are totally arbitrary and don't actually relate to the object in question. That is Philistinism. It is an inability to actually appreciate the artwork. So this movement to do extreme emphasis of formal analysis is a reaction against Philistinism. These critics didn't want to be Philistines. They wanted to be able to appreciate the art. Yes, Stanley, I see you. They want to be able to appreciate the artwork in its own terms. But Adorno's critique here is that went too far. It is kind of he calls it a monad. So the artwork is this kind of a self-contained totality that is not connected to any of the world around it, any kind of context around it. It's a monad, and the critique is immanent, meaning that it is already present within the terms of the work and is strictly confined to the terms of the work. But the problem with this is that because there's no anchoring, there's no connection of this critique of an object to any kind of greater social context. There's no anchoring kind of device there to this purely formalistic approach. Then the critique falls prey to ideology, meaning this is something that we see a lot in the world, which is kind of like liberalism being appropriated, being pushed and pulled in either direction. These kinds of critiques are able to be moved in whatever direction. Nietzsche is a very easy example of this. Nietzsche is somebody who his critiques, his philosophy is appropriated by either spectrum, by anarchists and fascists alike. Liberalism as well. Any kind of liberal ideology can be pushed in either direction because it's not anchored in any kind of concrete worldview. So yeah, and we see that. I mean, those are perhaps not the best examples. Maybe you should help me out here by listing off some examples of things in the world, critiques that are kind of self-contained to an object, but and are therefore easily appropriatable by either side, by any kind of political ideology. It doesn't have to be strictly confined to left or right. You know, whatever political tendency, political ideology. The point is that if you are just doing these kinds of like purely formalistic, immanent critiques of objects taken to be monads, that is, objects that are not part of something greater, that are not necessarily and inextricably connected to the greater social context around them, then that kind of critique has no anchoring. It is not, because it's not trying to like connect the artwork to its context, to its social context, then it can be pushed or pulled in any direction that any ideological figure may choose. And I think this is pretty relevant to something like anarchism, just because anarchism is this critique of like hierarchy and power structures within the terms of like capitalism. It's not great recording in this basement. There's all kinds of like water and like cats running around and fighting. But so anarchism it's kind of like liberalism in a way, like strict anarchism, like in its most pure sense of being like kind of like a libertarianism. It's this kind of like anti-hierarchical ideology that can easily and is most popularly associated with leftist progressive political ideologies. But the fact is that libertarianism, which is the like historical root of anarchism as a political ideology, is now associated with the right, because this idea of being anti-hierarchical, of like being anti-market, or just letting everybody do whatever they want or whatever, that is so easy to be pushed in either direction. Like you should be able to see how easily such a kind of like vacuous critique can be appropriated by whoever comes along. And the fact is that it has been. Anarchism has been, again, be associated with the left, but it's also, there's a lot of anarchistic ideologies and viewpoints that are very much present on the right. And if you can't recognize that, then you're a fool. But yeah, that's all I want to say. I mean, I just read this Adorno quote. I thought it's pretty interesting. It's strictly like he is applying it to artworks, but obviously it applies to many things beyond that. But yeah, maybe leave a comment and let me know something that you think that is a kind of like immanent critique in this sense. I'll leave the quote in the description so you can mull it over and try to figure out what it means. But until next time.